Green Hell VR is finally available on the Quest 2 and this is my review of it. After playing through about half the game, it's time to tell you if it's all I had hoped for and answer the big question. Is Green Hell VR on the Quest 2 worth it? Let's find out. I'm gonna be using a simple scoring system across 4 main categories: graphics, mechanics, then we'll look at the story, and I promise no spoilers, and finally we'll score the overall fun element. So let's start with the graphics. Do note that I'm comparing this to other Quest 2 games and not PC VR titles, since that wouldn't be fair. The game looks quite nice, and while that probably doesn't translate great on the recording, I was expecting it to look way worse due to the Quest limitations. It does feel a bit flat compared to the PC version, since most of the reflections are gone and the shadow quality is pretty much squashed. But that doesn't take away from the enjoyment of playing it. You also need to account for the size of the game, since it's way easier to squeeze in more quality in a game like Echo Arena, where you have a limited area to render, but just look at the map from Green Hell. It's huge, and I might not have even discovered all of it yet. Also, I'm not entirely sure if this is by design or not, and although the night sky looks amazing, everything else is very dark. Thankfully, you can craft a lot of stuff, including torches. Overall, I give it 8 out of 10 marks for graphics. It looks better than I imagined, and while it's not perfect, it's definitely way above the good enough level. Moving on to mechanics, the interactions felt very natural and it passed most of my "can I do this" tests, so I'm happy with what they've done. Collisions were pretty spot on most of the time, with the occasional clipping through walls, but nothing too immersion breaking unless you really go looking for it. A big area for this game is the crafting experience, which seems to have been simplified quite a bit from the Green Hell PC VR demo we tried. Crafting bandages, for example, no longer requires a crafting table like it did on PC, but rather just the right type of leaf that magically turns into a bandage when you pick it up. It takes away from the immersion a bit, but it also makes it way easier to play and enjoy. Also, when you craft an axe using a stick and a rock, you basically just have to mush them together while holding both triggers and poof, you've got yourself a tool. Kinda weird mechanic, but still somewhat oddly satisfying. I saw this post on Twitter and the Green Hell VR devs replied that they might look at implementing it, and this looks so good, so fingers crossed. Since it's directly related to how the game was meant to be experienced, I want to shortly go over the survival mechanics. The game has 4 difficulty levels, each with increasingly difficult to manage survival aspects. The tourist difficulty is, as they describe it, a peaceful mode with no hostile attacks from either tribes or dangerous animals. Also, no need to worry about your sanity or nutrients depletion in this mode. On the opposite side of the spectrum, we have the King of the Jungle difficulty. That turns everything I just mentioned to on, as well as nutrients depletion to increased. For reference, I went with the Welcome to the Jungle level, which is 3 out of 4. Now, the game isn't perfect and still has some bugs, minor collision issues, and even objects getting stuck in other objects from time to time. Do note that I played a pre-release build, so most of the small issues I found will likely be fixed pretty quickly after the game's launch. But even so, there weren't any game-breaking moments, and most of the interactions worked as designed without hiccups or frustration to the player. This category also gets an 8 out of 10, with the mechanics being overall very good, but I'm knocking off a few points due to the oversimplified crafting mechanics versus the PC version. Now let's talk story. Green Hell VR seems to have way more depth than I thought. According to the devs, the game is about 10 to 15 hours long, so I've played about a third to a half of the game, and I've gotta say the experience was very engaging. I was taken through a whole range of emotions, starting off with happiness and excitement and leading to anxiety, fear, and even anger. While many games nowadays focus on the pew-pew aspect of the gameplay, Green Hell VR really manages to make me feel invested in the story and characters. I've promised no spoilers, so I can't give you any solid examples, but what I can say is that the game offers quite a few emotional twists and turns, as well as unexpected situations that really pump up the volume in terms of immersion and credibility. The voice acting has also been very good and really helps you step into your character's shoes. Overall, for the story, I give Green Hell 8.5 marks. It's been good so far, and I'll definitely continue playing it to see what happens next. Alrighty, time for objectively the toughest category to avoid subjectivity in. And yes, I know that sentence was a mouthful, but it's very relevant because my idea of fun is not necessarily your idea of fun, right? So I'll do my best to be as non-biased towards my own preferences as possible. Green Hell promises to offer a great survival experience, and it definitely delivers on that. The missions, activities, and even just fooling around without a purpose are super engaging and fun, especially as you progress through the game. Nothing I've done so far in the game has felt empty or useless, and I genuinely think it can give any VR lover a fun time. From simple things like chopping down a tree to drinking water or splitting a coconut in two, it was not only fun but also interesting. And cause I really am trying to keep things in this category fair, I have to also mention that I was hoping for even more stuff to do around the jungle, and more freedom, like being able to climb rocks or building a shelter just the way you like it. At the same time, we have to remember that this is still a standalone game and some of my complaints are unwarranted, since the developers have done a fantastic job in making this game fun despite the limitations of the hardware it runs on. Another plus in this category is the game's survival mode, in which, as the name suggests, your only goal is to survive as much as possible. And between diseases, parasites, predators, or just dying of thirst or hunger, it's quite the challenge and very fun. Oh, and in survival mode, you can't save the game until you've built a shelter, which requires gathering resources while hopefully making it back to camp alive. So the fun element is clearly way above average, and that's why I'm giving it a respectable 8 points. Okay, we've made it to the conclusion part. Is this game actually worth it? So it's time to rack up the points and see what the overall score is. Drumroll, 8.125 marks. Ugh, that's a nasty number. Let's just stick to one decimal. So Green Hell VR Quest Edition gets an 8.1 and a clear stamp of approval from me. It was a super fun and engaging experience playing it, and I'm truly hoping to see more DLC content from the devs. By the way, if you'd like us to make more in-depth reviews where we go over way more aspects of the game, do let us know in the comments and slap that like button on your way down. Hope you've enjoyed the new format, subscribe for more content, and check out some of our other videos here and here. Have a great day. Cheers, guys.